Hello. Crazy hair. Okay. So, my hair is in knots per usual. We gotta wash it today. Okay. So, inspired by this video I just saw, which has some parallels to my life, I'm gonna share what happened to me. Don't mind me right now. That led me to become very spiritual. So a little bit of background. 2019, I leave a relationship that was miserable from the start. I wasn't happy in it. I had a lot of uneasy feelings about it. And I was really just kind of searching for love outside of myself instead of creating it from within. So that relationship ends. I go to therapy and I walk into therapy and I'm like, I think this has something to do with my family growing up, and I do not want to think in black and white anymore, because I could realize that everything in my life, whether it was judgments about other people or myself, was always in black and white. They did this, so they're bad now, and I can safely put them over here and they can't hurt me. I did this, so I must be bad. So the pandemic happens. I get to go home. I finally get to rest because my nervous system was on all the time. I was running around to different gyms, clients, teaching a bajillion classes, getting up early, going to bed late, not sleeping well, training, and really just like that all the time, especially living in New York City too. So I go home, I start getting some rest. The gym opens up in New York City and I'm like, I can't go back there because I will fall into the same exact patterns. I will never make the changes that I want to make. So like, it just wasn't a time to kind of like test yourself where you have that like foundation and strength to, test like your growth in a sense, like just be at peace in any environment. Like I kind of think I could be now. I was just still like, I really needed to develop like a sense of safety and trust in myself and love for myself first before I could wander out of the womb. So I go to LA when New York City reopens because I'm like, I got to keep on going with this healing journey. There was so much that I was working on with my inner child wounding and all that stuff. While I'm in LA, I start this program called the O23, the other 23 hours. And they teach me all about sleep routine, circadian rhythm, basically eating and sleep as spiritual acts, self-care rituals in themselves. And I started spending more time in nature. I'm spending a lot of time alone still, a lot of time in silence. And I think this started to create a little bit of opening in myself. So then I come back to Connecticut for a job and I'm still working with them. And at that point, I'm feeling the best I've ever felt. I'm getting up, I'm getting outside into the sunlight right away. I have my sleep routines. I'm feeling much more free and joyous and at peace for like the first time in my life. So then I kind of stumble backwards. I would always kind of live off of highs, right? So it'd be like I'd always need the next thing. All right, what am I going to do the next thing? Like, okay, I'm going to quit my job at this gym and I'm finally going to start my own business. But that gave me like I got to stay on this high to get it done. And then when I was in New York City, I really felt that like it was like a constant low and then a high, low, high, low, high. Always having something in front of me that I was changing almost for the reason of like being able to start over and rebuild because it gave me something to do. And now I'm working on just being. But anyway, so I go through this program, it creates those outcomes, and then I fall back into this trap of kind of like working myself to death right before semifinals, that I find out I qualify for Granite Games. And I'm like, I don't have any time to train. I have a crazy fucking like 40 hours like on the floor. And then I freaking am driving all over the place. My nervous system is shot again from competing in the open and quarters and not really having a good idea as to how to down regulate my system. So I'm like fucking dead. I have this experience before Granite Games in May, and I'll tell you about part of this experience later on, but I basically have this experience where I have the thought like, am I real? Is life real? What is real? What isn't? And then I get hooked on this thought where I'm walking around. I feel completely disassociated. I'm walking around and I cannot stop thinking about how people have brains inside their bodies. So it's funny now. It was not fucking funny at the time because I thought I was having a mental breakdown. I was like, this is it. I put myself under so much stress. I finally achieved my career CrossFit goal after 4 years of working. I'm working so much. I achieved this goal at the same time. I'm just like fucking fried. And then I'm realizing at the same time, I'm not in alignment with what I want to be doing. I ended up going backwards again, in a sense, not fully, right? Because I'm realizing this time, like I'm burning the candle at both ends again. And I did not want to end up here, which is why I didn't go back to New York. But this time it's different because I can see it happening. I feel, and I'm starting to realize, wow, I really feel that I'm not in alignment. And I saw there were some warning signs. I just didn't quite pick up on them. It's like, hey, Britt, like you're doing it again. Like this is not how you want to live your life and you're not being in tune with yourself. So I have this experience and that thought freaked me the fuck out. Like I was like, this must be what people that have different forms of mental illness experience. So I am having these thoughts and I am terrified. I'm like, I have disassociated once before, also under similar circumstances to the point that I haven't told you about yet, which I'll share another time, like a precursor. So I'll give you a hint. That was in college after I smoked weed. So I did know kind of like what this disassociation felt like, and I did know it eventually, left and I returned to normal. What I would say, I'm like the most normal I've ever been because that experience pushed me or pulled me into the path of spirituality. I started reading these spiritual books and like all these thoughts that I was having, like I was sitting in the airport in Minneapolis coming back from Granite Games and I decided to open a book on my phone that I had bought and I hadn't looked at. So that book was called Integrity by Martha Beck. And remember what I said to you about being fascinated with people's brains, and like I was literally like, holy shit, we have brains and we have blood and we have all this stuff inside of our skin that no one ever really talks about. And then it was becoming apparent in those moments that we have like this physical human form, but we also have a consciousness and another something that we don't really know that much about that makes us, like is our higher self, is what a lot of people refer to it as, right? So I'm starting to like get there by having this experience, and it's like telling me like, hey, like you're not just this, like you're not just a meat suit, as some people say. So then I'm reading this book in the airport. First few pages of the book, she's like, there's like your meat suit self and then your higher self. And I'm like, what the? This book has been on my phone the entire time. So, and then she's talking about, which is crazy, right? Because I'm in the fucking airport at this moment in time reading this line. And she's like, yeah, like we're not just meat suits. Like when you're on a plane flying through the air, she literally mentions planes and meat suits. And I was just like, what is happening here? So now I've come to this point where I'm like, okay, I have this meat suit, I have this human body, but I'm realizing that there's something else that is here with me. And then through these, like that disassociative experience, I started like thinking about, like I could see my thoughts in my head. Like, how everyone says like, oh, you're not your thoughts? Like that line became so fucking true, because it was like there's a few people I like disclosed what was happening to, because I was like, oh my god, you can't just go walk around telling everyone about this. And then I went to an energy healer because I was like, I need more than my therapist. I need someone who is going to understand what's happening to me. So like it was just very, in this moment, like it was like I could really see, it was like my brain was like a whiteboard or a blackboard, right? And someone was writing on it. So my thoughts were the writing, and I could really see and separate like that I have these thoughts. It was like I could see them happening, and I could separate the fact that I may be thinking I'm a piece of shit or whatever, but I'm not because I'm over here and these are my thoughts, if that makes any sense to you guys. So, oh my God, it was just a wild fucking experience. It was horrifying at the time. And I had all these aversions after, which was interesting. Like during it, I didn't want caffeine. In the past, like long time ago, I took antidepressants, anti-anxiety, medication, right? So I asked my friend for Xanax because I was like, holy fuck, like that thought about is life real? Is life real? Is life real? Was OCD, was compulsive or obsessive or whatever in my head. Like it would not stop. And that was like, it was like beating into my brain over and over. And that's why I thought like, that's it. I have a mental illness. Like I'm done for. I'm never going to be the same again. And just wild because I feel wildly calmer than I ever have in my life. And that's why I know that was supposed to happen. So anywho, I don't want to take Xanax. I don't want any coffee that week. It was like also like my physical form was kind of like burnt to a crisp, and my brain felt like it was like, it did kind of feel, which was scary, like, and why I thought I was having a mental breakdown was like, it felt like my brain like short circuited. And one thing my therapist said that looking back was so interesting. She was like, it's kind of like you got a peek behind the curtain that you weren't supposed to see. And that looking back at that statement, it like was like, whoa, because really like, why aren't we questioning like why we're here? Why have I never really thought about that? Why have I never really questioned what's real or what's not? And it was also like a natural progression, right? Like I started getting into Joe Dispenza the last few years, and he, you know, is talking about like what you perceive as your reality and how to feel into your body and feel into your future, meaning you can create your future by feeling what it feels like, but you have to go through a lot of nervous system regulation prior to that, and you have to be able to heal, at least heal somewhat of your past and stop living there. So yeah, it was just the wildest experience. And, you know, ever since then, I've been on this spiritual path and realized like that I'm this energetic light being, and that I can regulate my nervous system. It is okay to just be and ebb and flow, and that I can mirror back to me what I want from the universe, and that everyone in my life is a teacher and they're teaching me about myself. And it's just like, and then I got into neuroscience too, because like a lot of neuroscientists like Joe Dispenza and everyone are like intertwining, because they say neuroscience and spirituality are the same thing, like, and creating new neural pathways in your brain. And I just went through a program that helped me with that. And it's just like, that experience was like, it changed my whole life trajectory. And I just want to know how many people have had experiences like that and then been like highly medicated. And I refused. Like, I actually stopped talking to my therapist because I felt like she wasn't a good fit for this. But it was so interesting to have those aversions after, because it was like showing me that all the things I already intuitively knew I was averse to, but I may have been like not really following that intuitive information, like taking a Xanax. Like I took the Xanax from my friend. I never took it because it just did not feel right. I was like, wait, I think my body and my soul is literally trying to tell me something here, and I don't want to. As scary as it was, I did not want to miss that opportunity. And I think that's because I had created a little bit of openings in myself from those last 2 years of work. But I was like averse to drinking coffee for a week. It was like, no drugs are allowed in this body. This body is like doing what it needs to do on its own. I was very averse, even more so than I already have been my whole life. You can ask 023 guys. Like I told them when we began the program, I was like, I'm so fucking averse to fluorescent lighting. I never use lights in my home, very rarely. I hate being under fluorescent lighting, even if it's in the gym. It's so agitating to me. I did not want to go into a grocery store because I could not stand the fact that there was so much fluorescent lighting on my food. I'm trying to think what other aversions I had at that time. I feel like there were more, but it was just like anything that wasn't in line and wasn't like 100% yes in my body and that feeling, had to go. Like I just had no choice in the matter. We ain't doing it no more. So yeah, if you've ever had an experience like that, which they do call disassociation, and I would prefer never to speak of it that way again. It did feel like I didn't know anyone around me, and there was like this space between me and the world, which was interesting because having that feeling only served to like, again, create this path of spirituality where it showed me that there is no space between me and the world. Like I am a part of this world as much as this world is a part of me. And they talk about that a lot in spirituality and, being oneness with everyone and everything's a part of everything. And yeah, so there's probably a lot more I could say. It's been 15 minutes. That was a lot. But yeah, I just want to start putting this stuff out there. And my friend sent me, after this whole experience, he sent me this TikTok of a girl who talks about having a spiritual awakening. And he's like, this was literally you. And I was like, oh my God, like people are experiencing these things. It's just not something that was ever in my consciousness before. So I don't know. It's just wild. It's been a wild ride. It's probably going to get even more wild in the next few months. So I just have that feeling that energy is coming. I'm sitting in the discomfort of kind of this transition right now. So we'll see.